So, here it is, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game made by Ultra Games, which is to say Konami's own little in-house trickery to get more games published on the system, but at this game they just made it so. But let's just go, and it was a port from the arcade game, and as such, well, it is not as technically fancy as in graphically and sound-wise, but as compensation, it's very much expanded from the arcade version. There's, I would say, about almost twice as much as stages, and of course the difficulty is much more lenient, seeing that, hey, this is a home port game, and it also even has a two-player option mode of simultaneous playing. So I would say that as much as game conversions go, this is very good. And if you play the Kawabunga collection, which has about 10, well, I would say almost all the pre-PlayStation 1 era, which didn't have any Turtles games, games of the franchise. So there would be lots of gameplay to play for it. Or it's also, you could say, quite repetitive because there's just so many similar games. But let's just take my personal favorite, Raffaello, with his size. Yeah, that's a practically cosmetic change. There's no... So, but the first stage, burning building. Yeah. Yeah, they got different weapons and that's it. So, but let's just get right into the action. Burning building. And of course, right away we're gonna get swamped by the Foot Clan robo mooks. They were already, the purple ones are the basic ones. They just kick and punch you, and each enemy taken down, knocked out, is worth 1 point. And with 200 points, you get an extra life, meaning that it's gonna become there's about to be a huge number of these kind of things. And there's even special effects like them appearing through to the doorways, making just a bit more extra. And of course there's the basic moves, strikes, which have various animations, but they basically just do the same: jumping and jump kick, which goes diagonally down, and of course they use the jump and strike at the same time, and you get the nice little power swing, which you could say is a vital tool if you want to get through this game with any kind of pace. But you could say if you want to play it fast, yeah, speedrunners just absolutely mash through this game. But I'm playing way more, you could say, calmly. And this is not going to be a full playthrough because this is more of a review of this game. And I would say that as much as arcade game ports go, this is very, very, very high quality stuff from Konami. But then again, they were porting their own game, so they knew and there was already quite much of experience on working with NES. So it was, you could say, at the twilight of its position as main home console. And of course, Nintendo most likely not done much of research, but most likely had already started working on Super Nintendo. So, and the Kawabunga collection also has some little, you could say, well, it has plenty of all kinds of inbuilt cheats you can use, but I'm using only the one which reduces graphical flickering, which might not look that pleasant, and which doesn't do anything to gameplay. And I would say that this game just looks, to its age, it sounds very good. But I would say that this kind of beat 'em up gameplay, because, well, there's the Shredder's Revenge, which is very much of a, you could say, modern version of it. Came out a few years ago, if I recall right. Of this kind of arcade gameplay, which is to say, but of course it has, because it's been modern game, it's been refined with way better, you could say, differences between characters and better differences between characters and oh yeah. it's got better differences with characters, more stages, online multiplayer, and all that kind of, you could say, fancy stuff. And I would say that that game also is not bad at all. That's a scream. Yep, April's apartment. But as much as I would say that this kind of, you could say, beat 'em up game, there's very little, you could say. It's, well, the genre is already quite monotonous. That you just go forward and beat up bad guys. But in this game it's got a really bad because there's very little, you could say, environmental difficulties. There's a little bit of no platforming, very little environmental weapons, and of course you don't get to pick up anything to smash over the head with it. But a big drill machine shows up and say hello to Rocksteady, the first boss of the game. Which is quite common, that he usually appears as a first boss. And yeah, he's got a gun. He can give a big hefty sidekick towards you. And yeah, and he also can do some diagonal shots towards you, do some anti-air attacks. But I am not intending to play through this game without fancy tactics. So, and of course, boss starts to flash once he's taken a bit more beating. Oh yeah, he goes down. And Shredder, he shows up. And a nice little drawn picture to stay with that. Yep, that's it. So, once again, action continues. Yeah, that's a little bit of funny thing. So now, I would say that almost every beat 'em up game has this kind of, you could say, streets level kind of level, that it may start from somewhere else, but it's usually right at the beginning that the player characters or heroes of that specific beat 'em up game just gonna walk through streets and all kinds of random assortment of thugs. And how the hell was Shredder able to come into a television broadcasting is beyond me. But in this stage actually had some little bit extra, you could say, environmental hazards, but I would still say that regarding those, this game is kind of weak, because, well, there's very little chances of actually throwing enemies into all kinds of environmental hazards like pits, which I would say that would be quite important part of this kind of game, and there's no any kind of tackle move or anything like that. You just slug around and punch stuff. But yeah, this stage actually does have a little bit of extra interest in form of, yeah, there's this little upper edge, but it's not much of a, you could say, interesting little thing. And eat some pizza. And Harry's a passerby, just because. And in addition to horizontal scrollings, there's also even diagonal scrolling through the street. Well, I think that the graphics might be doing a little bit of a glitchery. I don't know, does it have to do anything with the port? Most likely does, that removing the flicker makes that part, because there's the moving platforming and moving platform, that stage, which doesn't really work nicely. NES could handle vertical scrolling and horizontal scrolling, but very badly diagonal ones. But of course these yellow Foot Clan mooks, they actually throw boomerangs, so they got all kind of little specialities and styles, but generally sense that there's not much difference regarding them. But then again, when it's a matter of that Raphael speeding over 100 of them already, when the game's not even ending at the second stage, you could say that there will be a lot of them. But this, if anything, looks like a boss battle arena. And I should have knocked that off, but it doesn't really matter. And you can also block the projectile attacks with your weapons or jump kick, but it doesn't really matter. And the second boss, say hello to Bebop. Yep, another genre of music. He instead of kicks, he punches. And he's a mutant boar and the second half of the idiot duo of Rocksteady and Bebop. Both are music genres and quite much comic relief bad guys. And he went down pretty easily. So I would say that as much as arcade ports goes, this is class of, I would say, almost 10 by 10, 10 out of 10 port to home markets with expansion to the game, good gameplay, inclusion of the multiplayer aspect. But as a game itself, it's very, you could say, kind of sluggish and monotonous, even for this kind of beat 'em up game, because most stages are just basically, well, always, but there's just very little environmental hazards, and you can never make use of them in-game as your own hazard, because I would always find that really annoying that, yeah, there's all kind of fire jets spewing out from the place, but the bad guy mooks or whatever, shirtless idiot guys with shirtless guys don't get hurt by them, but you player do get. So this game lacks that kind of, well, that kind of interesting detail, but also that kind of annoying detail. And say hello to Mousers. These little robot monsters appeared at the very first original independent, well, indie comic Turtles comics right at the beginning of them. So those got a long history with the franchise. So I would say, so as a port of the arcade game, 10 out of 10. As a general game, I give this 70 points. It works, but it is nothing too fancy regarding actual gameplay. So there's not much of reason to be too generous about it. Their platform has, I would say, in general sense, better beat 'em up games, but still, and of course, hey, it's Turtles game. That's always great. So, 10 out of 10 arcade port, 70 points out of 100 as a general game. So let's just knock out these guys. And of course, this port doesn't have any, you could say, common, you could say, traits arcade games might have, like timers, timers penalizing slow playing. So this was very much designed from ground up to home machines. Yeah, ow, that hurt. Yeah. Yep, just there you go. Yeah, just look at that. Yep, the spiky hammer thing does nothing. Although I do say that the strike attack has quite long and generous hit time, so it gets to it does its job very well. Yeah, and just ambush the bad guys right there. 5 of them out of existence with very little effort. And 202 with a 1 strike. Yeah, lots of bad guys. And say hello to third boss, which is gonna be the one defeat. Baxter Stockman. He flies around in his, well, he flies around in his machine. And, well, he flies around and he drops Mousers at him because, hey, he is the inventor of them, even in the original topic. And, well, he doesn't look like Strange because I would say he might be one of the, you could say, first black you could say, mad scientist or mad scientist. So it's interesting. Yeah, with 200 I've got an extra piece of health. But now that breaks up his machine and ends the stage. So, and with that, I'm also ending this stage as well. Yep, now he's been made into a mutant fly. Har 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 har. Shredder's making his evil speech. And I think I'm gonna end this episode ends right here. See ya.